Here is a tutorial on how to cut this stylish monostrap dress with ruffles. So for this particular video, I'll be sharing 3 methods of how to cut this. The first is the dartless method. First is with dart, and then the third one is dart manipulation. That is, after your dart, you can go ahead to blend it out and then cut out. So let's start with inserting the measurement. I'm going to go ahead to mark the shoulder to bust. So I'm using my own measurement, which is my shoulder to bust is 9, shoulder to under bust is 12, shoulder to waist is 17. Then add additional 7 inches for your hip point. So if you're on a much taller side, you'll be using 8 inches to get your hip point. Now I'll be using the total length of this pattern paper as the full gown length of this dress. Now after marking that, I'll place my ruler to draw a straight line. The next step is to start marking my measurement. I'll start by marking my shoulder divided by 2. Now I'll come down by 1 inch from there and mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. I'll connect from the shoulder to that 3 inches point, and I'll be coming down by 3 inches for the neckline. This will serve as a guide for the pattern, and I'll connect. Go ahead to find the chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. What I have is 7 inches there, and I'll place my ruler to draw a straight line at that point. After marking that, whatever I have on the shoulder, I'll transfer it back to the chest line, and I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll draw a straight line connecting all the way up. Now I'm going to place my ruler and divide what I have there into 2 equal parts and come out by half. On the chest line, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now after marking this, you want to go ahead to place your tape at the shoulder connecting to the midpoint, and then from that midpoint connect it all the way to the armhole. Now this is what I have for the armhole curve of this dress. So now I'll start by drafting this as a dartless pattern first before we go ahead to insert my dart to it. At the bust, go ahead to mark your bust circumference divided by 4. So my bust is 33 inches divided by 4, I'll mark. Then use any sewing allowance of your choice. I'll go ahead to label out my pattern as bust, under bust, waist, hip point, and also blouse length, right? So at the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, which is 28 inches divided by 4, I'll mark. Then add any sewing allowance of your choice. Now mark your waist circumference divided by 4 and add your sewing allowance. Here, mark your hip circumference divided by 4, add your sewing allowance. Now whatever you have on the hip, go ahead to minus 2 inches from it and mark at the lower part, or minus 1.5 inches from it and mark. This is because the lower part of this dress is a fitted dress. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll start connecting my pattern. I'll connect from the bust to the under bust, waist, hip, and to the lower part of my dress. Now if you don't want to cut this pattern with a dart, this is all you have to do, and then cut out the neckline. I'll be adding a dart to my pattern, which I'll be using to do the dart manipulation. So I'll be explaining the 3 at the end of the video. So what you need to do is to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 and go ahead to draw a straight line connecting from the bust to the waist and to the hip point. Now I'll go ahead to mark my dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides, come down by 1 inch from the bust and go down by 5 inches from the waistline. Then I'll go ahead to connect my pattern at both sides. After connecting this, I'll be replacing this dart at the side. I'll measure the dart intake here, add it back, which is about 1 inch, measure the one at the under bust, and I will add back. I'll connect to this side and connect to this side, then blend it off to the hip. Now for this second pattern, that is if you want to use a dart, all you have to do is sew up your dart. Another method is if you don't want to use a dart, you go ahead to blend out your dart, which is the dart manipulation. Now I'll be explaining it very well at the end of this video. What I'll do now is to go ahead to cut this out first. Then after cutting out, I'll go ahead to mark all these measurements, like go ahead to remark this on this other side. I'll be doing it off the camera so that it will not make the video too lengthy, right? So just repeat what I have here on the other side. So that is if you want to use the dart manipulation method or you want to add a dart to it. One part of this dress is like an off shoulder, so you might use -4 or -5 inches. Now what I'll do is I'll blend back this pattern and I'll start connecting it to the other side, right? So after connecting towards this side on the neckline, on the brown picture of the dress, it has like a slight curve, right? While the other ones is just like a slanted monostrap. So from here I'll measure 2.5. You can use 3 inches. Just measure what is okay for you and I'll go ahead to connect. After marking this, all I'll do is to cut this out. If you don't want the neckline to be this slopey, you can just make it slanted like the other pictures on this dress, right? So now this neckline might gape because of this. So what I'll do is to add a little dart to it. I'll be adding a dart to avoid the neckline from gaping, right? So if you're making this dress with a dart, you want to actually sew it with a dart, all you have to do is cut out this pattern now and you'll be sewing out your darts at the back side of your dress, just like you normally sew your darts, right? After cutting out your dress, you go ahead to like sew your darts, but first I have to like tighten the neckline of this dress to avoid gaping, right, on the neckline. So you're still going to do this tightening on the neckline whether you're using a dartless pattern, making it with dart, or you want to do a dart manipulation. So on both sides of the dart legs I marked 0.25 and I'll blend it out. So I'll use a sellotape to hold it. This is to tighten the neckline of this dress so that it might not gape or like have little excess on that part. But if you don't want to do that, all you have to do is tighten the armhole a bit. What I'll do here is to extend the dart and I marked 0.25 inches on both sides and connected. So I'll also blend out the 0.25 inches on this side and blend it out. So now this is what I have. Now if you want to make your dress with a dart, this is okay. This is what you'll be cutting out. What you now do is to sew up your dart at the back. If you don't want to like sew up your dart, you want to do like a dart manipulation, you take out the dart. What you do is go ahead to blend out your dart, right? And you're going to hold it down, like tape it down. So after doing this side, I'll also go ahead to do for the other side. I'll now go ahead to like blend out the dart and tape it down. So after taping it down, you can now pin it to your fabric and cut. Just go ahead and now place your pattern, like transfer it on the fabric and pin it down. You need to make sure you pin this down very well before cutting, right? Now let's say you don't want to use the dart manipulation method, you just want to like cut out your pattern dartless. Remember the first measurement we did on this dress, where before going ahead to add our dart to this part of the dress, right? So that extra dart that we added now, we are going to cut it out. That means if you use this method, you're sewing it without a dart. So from here to here is my original waist measurement and this other side. So this dart now that we marked here, we have cut it out, right? So there's no need for the dart. All you have is just your sewing allowance and your actual measurement. That means you're making it in form of a dartless pattern. So let's cut the back pattern of this dress. Now to cut the back pattern, all you have to do is place your front pattern and add a dart to it. But because I'm using a pattern paper, I'm going to go ahead to like slash up my pattern and I'll be adding my own zipper allowance. All you have to do is just place your fabric on fold, add a zipper allowance to it, but I'm just slashing this open. I'm using a pattern paper, but I'll still go ahead to pleat it back. So now I added additional pattern paper to the front, which will just be serving as if I added a zipper allowance to it. So your zipper allowance can be 2 inches to 1.5 inches. So this is what it will look like. Actually, let's say this is your original pattern now, and this 2 inches or 1.5 in front is the extra you will add when you fold up your pattern. So you'll be adding your zipper allowance irrespective of the pattern you're making use of, whether that's less, that manipulation, or with that. Now on the waistline, mark 1/2 inch, and then you'll be extending it all the way up to take care of the zipper bulge, and then extend it towards your hip at the lower side of your pattern. Then what I'll do is to go ahead to cut this out. Right now, after cutting this out, I'll go ahead to work on the neckline, blend it so that it will match. After cutting it out, I'll go ahead to open it and place it. So this is what the neckline will now look like at the back. Now for the lower part of this dress, all you have to do is like cut out layers of fabric, weave it out and pleat it around the lower part, and then add your beads or pearl to the hand of the dress.